Here we are. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name's Margaret Pinard. I'm a historical fiction and fantasy author, and I've got some books to share with you today. My motto is read instead, as you can see behind me, but I don't normally do a lot of haul videos, but that's what this is going to be because I feel like it'd gotten a little out of hand, so I wanted to take stock. So that's what we're going to do today. It is finally fall here in Portland, Oregon. It's cool, it's foggy, it's rainy. Oh my gosh, we had a cloud burst yesterday and I'm loving it. So summer's officially over and I've been counting the books that I somehow acquired in June, July, and August. And I just wanted to share a little bit about what they are, what format they're in, how I feel about all these books somehow coming to my house, and what you think about it, because I thought that'd be interesting. So yeah, we're going to take stock of the summer. I've got a poll in the live chat, and I've also got this just question I'm going to be asking folks during the live. Guess the number. How many gumballs in the machine? How many jelly beans in the window? Etc. Just for a fun number guessing game. You can read my mind. But otherwise, normal things. I wanted to give a quick author update because I wanted to remind myself I have a book coming out this fall, and so for anyone who is curious about a book coming out, historical fiction lovers, please sign up for my free Patreon tier because that is my first stop for all the announcements. And you'll also get audiobook chapters as you go, and blog posts and fun stuff, but like twice a month. So not too much, but hopefully not so little that you'll forget who I am. That's the goal. So the quick author update is that The Eagle has landed. I did get my manuscript back. I read through all the comments 2 days ago. I let it sit and sort of doing a day on, day off. Today is going to be my plan on how to attack the bigger questions and like make those structures. So yeah, planning day today. I've got a visit to the library. I've got busy work to do and these decisions. So hopefully that's a balance of things. But short, quick author update. And now for the books. I will say that I use the word accretions in my title. Now, this isn't normally a word that I think people on Booktube use, but I thought of it and I thought, oh, no, I'm going to use it. Just like with the keening. I thought of the word. It was the perfect word to express what I wanted. But then I was afraid it wouldn't like connect with people. And then I thought, no. Okay, I'm doing it. So accretions makes me think of Bootstrapped Bill, if anyone remembers the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He is a character who eventually, because of the curse, becomes part of the ship. You see him like growing into the seaweed and barnacles and whatever. And that's a little how I feel about all the books that I've accumulated. Almost like I'm lying on the floor and they're just like gonna brick me over. Good way to die. Good way to die. So that's how I'm feeling. Like I only got 2 or 3 here, 2 or 3 there, but over 3 months it's sort of added up. So accretions. I did a very good spring cleaning. I had a friend help me to unhaul books. Half of these bookshelves behind me are empty, but then the next step of the remodel, I didn't have time to get to, so they've been lying in wait. And then I did some travel and visited people during the summer, and so like things happened. But I'm going to go. Here's the main part of this live stream. I'm going to go through all the books that I acquired this summer. And I'm going to tell you where I got them because I think that's interesting. And that's part of the reason I like to travel and visit, and why the books are fun to acquire is because they take on memories. So before I launch onto that, I'll just say the comments Houston was here early and first, but will be lurking because of deadlines. Understandable. Hello, Shannon. Anita Stewart, AF Stewart is here. And yeah, I heard you as narrator on the latest Fun Classic Reads, and I thought you did a fabulous job. So well done on the historical outlining. Something acting. Yeah, great job. Cat Power Rosales is here. Bring on the autumn. I know we do. Eva, hello. We've got Jim's Stuff is here. Hey y'all, welcome. And Leslie saying happy Sunday. Lovely Leslie in your time zone. Eva says 12 books is my guess. All right. Anita's going with 25. Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna go through the books and then we're gonna go through the feelings. Seriously. And don't forget there's a poll in the chat. Check it. Oh, okay. So yeah, we're definitely leaning one way. This is fun. And Jim's gonna go with 16. Okay, he's gonna go with the middle of the road. Fun. All right, so June, July, and August. That's 3 months. You might be surprised by how I get around, and by that I mean this. So in June, I visited my family in California. My nephew was visiting from Texas, and I got to do some sightseeing with him in my hometown, which was fun. So I went to Phoenix Books. Phoenix Books in San Luis Obispo is a used bookstore that was co-owned by my third grade teacher. I'm not sure if it is anymore, but that was like the knowledge growing up. It is what's the descriptor for this? It's like unrolling, unwinding, relaxed, and a little bit comfortable is how I would describe it. Like there's lots of books everywhere. They're kind of squished in. There's not enough space. Like some of them are on the floor, but it's not to the degree that you would think things would fall over because it is in an unreinforced masonry building, I believe. And so you probably have to watch out for some of those things. But lots of interesting sections. There's a whole like occult section. I remember being like very avant-garde and great fiction and great people, and I sent books back and love Phoenix Books. So I found Surviving Autocracy there for $1. I found New Grub Street, which is going to be a book for October. The Towers of Trebizond, and many of the moderns read. Beyond the Wild River, which is recent. The Last Thing You Surrender, which is on several readathon lists, and it will be a Herkiad book, hopefully. And Single Thread, which has been on my for quite a while. So use bookstore, Phoenix Books, and you can keep a count in your head if you want, but I'm not going to do that for you. The next book was from Blackwell's because I had a wish list and I love Blackwell's, and sometimes they have much better deals than places that I can find them here, or if I can't find used books here, I can go and find them here. So these were new books that were good gifts. So we have A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting. We have Clear. We have The Unfortunate Side Effects of Birthright and Magic. We have Light Rain Sometimes Fall, and Tea and Sympathetic Magic. Oh, the other thing I was going to do was tell you which ones I've read. So I've read Surviving Autocracy, which is great. Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting, great. Clear, I'm reading right now. Unfortunate Side Effects, I've read. Light Rain Sometimes Fall, I've read. Tea and Sympathetic Magic, I've read. So you may recall that I was very excited that this Blackwell's haul from June, I might actually finish reading all of the books. That's very exciting. So Blackwell's is a bookshop that started out, I believe, in Oxford in the UK, and they stayed around for over 100 years. They've gotten bigger. They've adapted to the modern market, I shall say, and they haven't yet been bought out. So they have a place in my heart. I am not an affiliate. It was a little more complicated than I could figure out, but Edie, my friend over at Brown Girl Reading, is an affiliate. So if you're looking for someone to like give a shout out to, a tip to while you shop at Blackwell's, because they do have good deals and discounts, and they don't charge for shipping, check out Edie's channel. Blackwell's. Oh, Jim's showing us a fact. Today is Agatha Christie's birthday, 134 years ago. Very cool. I'm not doing anything for Agatha Christie's birthday. I think I've only read her in trilogy, actually, which is fun. Okay, the next books are from July. Next books acquired. We have No Two Persons, which I had listened to. This will be my undoing, nonfiction. The River's Song, which is that Singapore translated. Spoiler alert, rom-com. Shopping, Seduction, and Mr. Selfridge, which is nonfiction. And if you've seen, I think there's a mini series about Selfridges. I watched a few episodes and it was interesting. But yeah, late Victorian period guy opening a department store, revolutionizing social relations. Who knew? Maybe he did. So that was great. Those books I got at Village Books in Bellingham, which is a new store that also carries books. It's multi-level. It's got a cafe. Its cafe has fair trade chocolate. It was beautiful. It's got a view down to the ocean and like the little city square. It was a lovely place to spend an afternoon and get lost in books. So Village Books. Then there's more used books. This is for Bellingham in July. So the person I know who lives in Bellingham, Amy at A-Star Reads, unfortunately had gone the other direction, but we got to meet in the middle. So I went to Bellingham and she went to California, and she gave me some great recommendations for food, but I had already done a little bit of research on the bookstores, and they did not disappoint. So Village Books, used bookstore, which is again a treasure trove of you never know what you're going to find. There were lots of piles on the floor. It was Eclipse Books. And what I especially loved about Eclipse Books was that it was one floor on the street and then had a basement below, but it was on a street that fell away from the road and went down to the ocean. And when you looked through the windows at the front, you could see the water behind because there were windows on both sides, so you could see straight through. I walked by houses like this in Portland, and it's a funny feeling. I feel a little like I'm invading their privacy, but they've got both curtains open, so they're letting light in or whatever, and so I can see straight through. And it's a gorgeous view, so I appreciate it. I hope people don't think that's weird, but the bookstore had the same setup, and I was just entranced. So love Eclipse. And at Eclipse Books, I got The Great A&P, which is a history of the convenience store, which I thought was fascinating. I got An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson, and that is on a list to be soon. Side note, Wednesday we're doing fall books, and that is definitely going on that list for several reasons. And The Case of the Man Who Died Laughing, which is a detective story. I do a detective story, and that one is set in India. It is not an Indian author, but it's someone who's lived there for settled there. So I feel okay with that. And it's number 2 in a big series. So if you like it, we'll have lots more to read. Eva's here for her birthday. Hooray, Agatha. Okay. Jim reviewed Murder on the Orient Express to mark her birthday. Eva digs Agatha Christie's mysteries. Haven't read any in a while, but I read them in every decade of my life since reading. Nice. I love Christie. All right, well, we've got a classics crowd here today. I'm reading Lucy Worsley's book about Christy now. Oh, nice. Very good. And then JC is here. Hello, hello. Welcome. Cat Paw's having a fun. Nice. All right. That was the clip. And then we've got one more used bookstore in Bellingham, Washington, which is Henderson. This one, I had to settle for a very short amount of time because their hours did not coincide with the time that I was going to be in town. So as soon as I got there, before I got to the hotel, I went to the bookstore. This is my level of dedication. And at Henderson's, I found The Man of Feeling, which I am currently reading, and Green Dolphin Street, which is another October pick, I believe. And I really loved the atmosphere at Henderson's. It was not as cluttered as the other used bookstores, and the bookshelves were very fancy, like the shelves and fronts, because some of them were like glass fronted, looked very sturdy and clean, and like a dream bookstore of the future when I'm retired type. It was only like 30 minutes because that's all we had, but it was a lovely store, and they had done a lot to make it feel open and clean and organized. And yeah. Then the next one I have is from Oblation, which is actually a stationery for World Stationery Day. That's what it was called. They had a Saturday opening with a few like small things, and the 5 or so stationery shops in Portland had fun promo activities. And so I went to Oblation, which is the closest to me, and I found a book that leapt into my hand called Shopkeeping. And if you remember a month or two ago, I read some passages from it that really touched me because it's a guy who's a bookseller. He has an architecture bookshop. He's been in Seattle for like 40 years. And he's written a book about being a shopkeeper and sort of where that situates him in panoply of American society. But when I read it, I felt like it really spoke to an author and like what you do when you're writing and what you're offering to the public. And so it was just a great connection. Not a bookstore, but this book found me and it really meant a lot. And I tore through it and I loved it. And I'll probably read it again, obviously. So, shopkeeping. Yeah. Score 1 for Oblation. Okay. The next one was August. Oblation was August. August. And Spoken Word is a new bookstore. So we're going back to new. And they're over in Milwaukee. They're very bright, very colorful. They're very new, but I do have a few used books. And they specialize in LGBTQ romance, I would say. Like they do have some nonfiction as well, but especially the LGBTQ plus romance section shines, should I say. And the owner is great. So I met them this year. I think they've only been open about a year or change. And I went there for the Independent Bookstore Day in April. I finally went back in August. I picked up Waypoint Kangaroo, Times, Convert, and Small Island. And So You Want to Be a Wizard. So 3 used and 1 new. So that was great. And then I had a great talk with the gals who were working there that day. It was very fun. I read So You Want to Be a Wizard. I read Shopkeeping. I am working on The Man of Feeling. It's a classic. Before all right. Good guess. Thank you, Leslie. Oh, okay. Let's turn it off then. Try to just have a nice background thing. But if it's like cutting in and out, that's annoying. Okay. Before we go on to the next one, I wanted to close the poll. So the poll in the live chat, would you rather buy a book or read a book right now? And overwhelmingly, 50% out of 8 votes said buy. All right, well, you're speaking my language. You're speaking my language, because obviously that's how I felt this summer. All right. So the next one was a little sadder note. I received notice. I can't remember from who. It might have been from the folks at Spoken Word. I think it was, that 2 of our Portland bookstores were in trouble because of rent hikes. And one is Jan's Paperbacks, which I know and I've been to several times, and they're on the west side and they were moving space. But the other one I had never been to, called Barely Read Books, and it was way on the east side. And the lady was not moving anywhere because she couldn't find another place. And so she was going to just be trying to sell all her inventory. And so I was like, number one, that's really sad. You have a feeling of like, broken dreams kind of happening. And of course, it's Portland real estate, so it's the source of a lot of broken dreams. But yeah, so I drove out and made a special trip, and she had a big old open space and a lot of shelves and a lot of romance. So I don't know if this is clear to folks who don't prowl through used bookstores all the time, but usually used bookstores that specialize in romance, historical romance, westerns, mysteries, thrillers, and the like, especially mass market paperbacks, tend to have a cheaper average book price than other used bookstores that have trade paperbacks and like bigger, fancier books. That obviously influences the bottom line in terms of profits. And so I found a lot of books that I don't find in other places that are more colorful, brightly lit, focused on new books, even if they do new and used. So when I went to Barely Read, I did go a little crazy because I thought, well, she's closing and this is just helping her. So like I'm getting these books out of her way, and I'll enjoy them once and pass them on, and it'll all be good. She gave me a great deal too. So I walked out of there with a backpack full of books. We have Heirs of the Body, which I'm reading right now. I just started. We have By Her Own Design, The Impeachment of Abraham Lincoln. I thought that'd be interesting because I've never heard of this impeachment to compare it to the Bill Clinton one. But like, wasn't Andrew Johnson also impeached like right after? So I'm very curious about that. An Echo of Murder, Dark Tide Rising, which are 2 Anne Perry books. Mysteries. Brass Buttons and Silver Horseshoes, which has to do with, that's a nonfiction about women in the West. Tremaine's True Love, which is Grace Burrows, and you'll see several Grace Burrows here. The Trouble with Scotland, another rom-com. Snow in April, which is Rosamund Pilcher. Unclaimed, which is Courtney Milan. How to Catch a Duke, which I've read and loved, by Grace Burrows. The Heir, another romance. The Story of the Amulet, which is a middle grade classic. Scenes of Clerical Life, which is a Victober possibility. And Sovereign, which is the C.J. Sansom Tudor. Not my area, but I did read one and liked it, and someone told me I should read another. It would be okay. It would be okay. So, backpack full of books from a business going out of business, and hadn't been there before, didn't have much of a relationship with the bookstore owner, but like I felt for her. So that was that. The next instance was a little free library. I found a book that I actually had from the library. And I thought, oh, so I returned the library book and I picked up the little free library book so that I can read it much later at my leisure because I really wanted to read it. It's called The Taste of Empire. So every once in a while, I'll pick something up from a little free library and, try to put something back in the system at a different point so that it's kind of fun. Then my next travel experience. So those two are in the Portland area, but then I traveled. So we had our little author tuber meetup in the heartland of America, and I got to go visit Skylark. Now, if you don't know, from A Mighty Blaze, Skylark bookstore is it's in Columbia, Missouri. It's not in a place where many people would have frequented, I believe, but it's famous among Mighty Blazers because one of our original, or almost original like me, member volunteers, Mary Weber O'Malley, was and is the what does she call it? Remote bookseller at large. So she lives outside Chicago and they're in Missouri, but she does a lot of the social media stuff and promotion for Skylark when she shifted it around during the pandemic. And so I've heard of Skylark multiple times. And they're a great bookstore. They're new, they're shiny. They remind me of Daunt Books, which was beautiful back in London when I went earlier this year. They're run by an author, so owned by an author bookseller. And they also put on a literary festival called Unbound. So like the bookstore that does it all. Worth going to Missouri for. That is what I will say. So at Skylark, I got 2 books. I got God Killer, which I've been waiting to get by Hannah Kaner. Very excited about that one. And The Full Moon Coffee Shop, which is a Japanese translation of like cozy. I think there's cats involved, like bookshop vibes. So I'm excited for that one. So that was fabulous. That was another travel opportunity. The next one was an order online. So I was looking for this book. I had been for like a year. And then was it Cat Paw that recommended Better World Books? I was looking on different places and couldn't find it. And when I looked on Better World, they had The Duchess of Bloomsbury Street. So I ordered it. It was like $4. So it was perfect. This is the sequel to 84 Charing Cross Road, which is a Booktube darling. And I'm sure many people have heard of, but not that she wrote subsequent books. And they're much harder to find, of course, because they haven't been reprinted. But I did get a copy of one of the sequels that I think will be delightful and cozy from Better World Books. And Better World, like Blackwell's, does not use the same practices as Amazon, which is great. And so I liked their philosophy and thought it would be good to support them. But Dee Dee's here. I gave you a shout out earlier and I said for people to follow your Blackwell's link because I don't have an affiliate link. So I told them to go to your channel to find the affiliate link. So yay, Dee Dee's here. Sound much better. Good. All right. So no music. Can't take credit for that. Okay. It was someone on Instagram. So maybe that's why I was getting confused. I don't think it was Leslie. Anyway, some guardian angel pointed out another website where I can get books, which obviously I need, right? I need another one. But if I'm really looking for a book and I haven't found it in a year, I think it's fair to say I can try a new way. Okay, then we've got the health disaster that happened, the family emergency, and that necessitated a drive down with the Beanster to California again. And while I was there for a week, I did take a little jaunt out to Ruby's Books. Ruby's is a new bookstore in Folsom, California, and they've got everything you could love. They also had cooking spoons with fun messages. I got one said, 1 spoon to rule them all. So, fun people there. And they're very knowledgeable. They read like all the latest stuff. Just like when I worked at a bookstore, people who were up on their specialties and could recommend. And it was great. So at Ruby's, I got The Truth According to Ember, which is Indigenous romance. Very exciting. Even though I knew the end, Books Do Furnish a Room, which I've read. And that is it. The spoon. So 3 books there. And yeah, it's a delightful shop. There's often a dog guardian named Ruby. I'm sure she's not the first Ruby, but she likes to hang out in the doorway and make it difficult to ingress and egress. But she's adorable, and I'm sure she's a draw for people for whom books are not the essential draw. But yeah, Ruby's books, the dogs, the water, it's a great little spot. If you're in the area, definitely check it out. And those are all the physical books. Yay! For sure, for sure. Then we have ebooks and audiobooks, so digital and audio. This is a much shorter list. So for digital, I've got In Knots Over You by my friend Edie K, which just came out in August. I've got Unmagical, another novel that came out in August, and I'm not sure where I got that lead from because I didn't tag it, unfortunately. And then finally, Strictly Business, which I have read and which was fantastic, which I put on the thumbnail, I think. And I'm on Carrie Elk's newsletter list, and she does a great job of like keeping people up with the latest details. So great author example. For audiobooks, I've got Democracy in Retrograde, which I've read. And these all I have read because the way my audiobook deal works is that I usually get advanced listening copies, and they sit there until I read them. So I'm only counting the ones that I've read and like interacted with. Democracy in Retrograde, Dirayawada. There's an Australian Indigenous POV book about like 1830s colonizing, which is really good. A Sorceress Comes to Call, The Key to You and Me, which was LGBTQ romance, like YA romance, very cute. History for Tomorrow, which I loved. History for Tomorrow, progressive, yes. Then I read The Good Fight by a boxer in Australia, like out of left field, but you know, you got to expand your boundaries. And finally, Rebel Skies, which is one I read on the road, and that is like a Asian-inspired fantasy with paper magic. So very cool. So how'd you guys do on the counts? Yeah. How do I feel about all that? How do I feel about that? So I said, I feel like I have an immense amount of privilege to be able to collect books as a hobby as well as read them. I did not count the books that I read from the library because those were not acquisitions, and this is sort of a different haul than reviews and whatnot. So this is just what I have. So privilege, feel a little bit guilt because it's like, I don't know. I could be doing something else with those dollars and cents. And when I think about the justification, well, you could have much worse vices than collecting books, hoarding books. It rings a little hollow because it's true, but like also you could be doing better things with your life. But I think I'm balancing like the books I'm reading and collecting with doing something with it, you know, like trying to get out the message that people need to read widely about history, that people need to read widely about others' experiences, that fiction can help us develop empathy and get us out of our comfort zones and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm trying to use that as my North Star so that the privilege and the guilt are sort of ameliorated with what I do with the books. Solace. So a lot of those romance books, a lot of these mysteries that have different elements are books of solace for me. So if I have them on the shelf, then I know like, oh, if I have a really bad day, if I have like another episode of depression, I can dive into a book and feel like taken away, spirited away, if you will. And so that comfort, that solace, I enjoy the feeling of having it close by. So that I think helps. You might think if you get too many books, if you're hoarding books, like that's dangerous for your mental health. But also if it's contained and it's not too wild. I think it also, for me, provides a level of insulation from feeling like completely alone because my books are there. So there you go. And then finally, how do I feel about it? I feel like I'm participating in my community through books. So there's the not so great, but very American way of saying, you're participating with your dollars, you're voting with your dollars. And I do consider that to be a good outcome when I'm going to all these used bookstores, when I'm going to small businesses that are independently owned and spending money. I feel like even if it's a small amount, I am boosting them and boosting their profile and bigging them up. I don't know if that's a good phrase. And making them feel like they're a valued part of the community. They're one of the types of businesses that I like to go out and support. So there's that between the booksellers and me. And then there's also the fact that I'm getting books that I have heard about through Booktube, through you guys. So the exchange of ideas is like adding different ingredients to my brain stew. So I like that too, because there's lots of books I've gotten and read that I wouldn't have. And some of them I'm like, not for me, but some of them I'm like, wow, blew my mind, right? So that mix and that mijotage, I don't know if that's a word, but like boiling together and sort of thinking and reflecting about things, like I said, is important to me in terms of community. And one of the ways I do that is through books. So, yes. So some good and some bad, but that's how I'm feeling about it. I don't know how you guys think about it. Leslie says, you only live once, Margaret. True. Anita says, you are supporting bookstores, authors, and the creative arts. All good things. True. Yes, the creative arts. I mean, I just finished an audiobook that was about spies in World War II. And the thing that they pointed out was that, and the thing that I really liked that they pointed out was that they recruited mostly people from history and English majors in academia, or not majors, but professors. Because they had R&D, they had all the science and math and physics and stuff to develop weapons and like troop gadgets or whatever. What they didn't have was the RNA, the research and analysis. So people who could find information, people who could interpret information, people who could translate information, people who could compile things and organize it in such a way that it was useful, like MLIS. What's the library degree? Information systems. I can't remember right now. I'm having my blonde moment. But yeah, I think that's really important. So support the creative arts. Definitely. Oh, and then they had a whole thing that wasn't academics, but it was like Hollywood artists. And so people who painted and did camouflage and did like deception. And that was pretty cool, but sort of like a side thing. But yeah, it was a good book. Cat Paw says, spirited away by a book. Few things more enjoyable. Truly, verily, as they would say. And Dee Dee says, you're boosting authors and getting the word out about their books. Yes. So like trying to have my little voice and my little channel out there have an effect for some people. So yeah, it's the good feels. Jim's just putting books. Excellent. Okay, so I don't know that anyone counted along with me, but I will solve the puzzle, Alex. The total is 58 books for the summer, 48 physical books and 10 digital and audio. So no one guessed even close. That's about 19 books a month. And as you saw, they came from various avenues, mostly used bookstores, but none this summer from Backstory, my favorite local bookstore place. I was sort of like waiting on the credit that I have there so that I could put it out as a gift certificate for giveaways. But then I decided not to do that. So I still got $80 almost of credit there. So we'll have to go back, but it'll be a fall haul now. So those are all the books. That is the end number. That is how I feel about it. Why do I do it? I just had some other like thoughts. Showing support for bookshops and booktubers, like I said, like reading other people's recommendations to show that I'm taking their recommendations and advice to heart. And will it collapse my building? Creo que no. I hope not. I don't think so. And should I do a year-end audit to examine? So a couple years ago, I was doing better on the month-by-month measuring up to goals. So Melissa from Fully Booked had a sheet that I stole that I was going to use for my own goals of monthly tracking diversity goals. So different formats, different sources, research, BIPOC authors. There's a couple others, but should I do a video on like a year-end audit of the books that I acquired? Because normally when I do that monthly reading tracker, it's books I've read. But what's interesting is that I acquire books with the intention, and then they could sit on the shelf for years. So would it be interesting to have like a year-end audit of the books I've acquired rather than the ones I've read? Because that's basically what I do with wrap-ups. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Yes or no. Here's our happy message. And then I've got two sort of reminders, which is Wednesday, my live stream will be about new favorite fall books. So last year I did like cozy, witchy academia. And this year I think it's cozy and witchy, but there's one different category. So they're all different books, except maybe one. And I'm very excited. So Wednesday is going to be like a huge blockbuster fall book stream. So I hope you can be there for that. And then Friday is our kickoff Good Fight Friday. So if you were here for the reader drive, you know that I'm starting a new author interview series. And Natasha Pulley, the author of The Mars House and The Watchmaker of Filigree Street and many other books, is going to be here on my channel to talk about the good fight in fiction. So if you have read fiction, especially historical, where people are discussing social movements, social progress, people struggling with adapting to new values or struggling to break down old traditions, I really dig that. And so I'm going to be inviting 6 to 8 authors on in the next 6 to 8 weeks in the roll up to my new release in the fall. And we will be chatting about sweeping social changes in our fiction. So stay tuned for those on Fridays. Good Fight Fridays. That will be my hashtag. Yes. And shut up. I went through them all, JC, and I still had people guessing 6 and 12 and 15. I don't know. I know we like to read and not to count, but it was, like... Okay, so JC wants to hear about the breakdown of the acquired books. That's gonna be a doozy of a live stream. We'll see if we can do that after the release. That would be good. Didi, hello. Yes, thank you. Hello. Thank you for asking people to hit the like button. Do a year-end video. All right, I'll put it on my list. It would be great to see what you've read from the books you've bought so far. Yeah, so the total for the summer book haul, out of 58, I've read 17, and out of 58, I am reading 3. So over a third. So that means that I'm doing 2/3 books that I've been sitting there for a while, and 1/3 books that I have recently acquired. I'm more interested in reading books than acquiring books. Yeah. Yes. I think my inclination is the same. I think what I would discover may be that my intentions to read things are exceeding like what I'm actually reading. Like maybe I'm going for comfort reading too much. So I want to see if that thesis is true. And like the books that are sitting there are all Booktober books, for example, or like I'm burnt out on race related nonfiction, and so the last 5, 6, 7 that I've gotten I haven't read, something like that would like pinpoint my problem areas, if you will, Jim. So, Cat Paw says, be still, bank account. I will just add to the TBR for now. Yeah. They're gonna be good. I'm excited. And Leslie says, I love the title, Good Fights in Fiction. Yeah. Yeah. I was pretty proud of that. I'm pretty excited about it. Jim says, the fantasy book I'm reading at the moment, Still a Little Hatred, NetGalley, I think, is set in an early industrial society with breakers and burners fighting the bosses. Okay, so we have like historical inspired fantasy about the Industrial Revolution. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yes, JC. She says, isn't the idea that if you acquire them, you will eventually read them? Yes, but with all the books that are in this house, when I go to pick something up, what's the next read? Well, what's the next readathon? Or what's the next buddy read? Or, what's piquing my interest? Or what's my mood? Or what's the research need? There's lots of competing criteria. And so I haven't lately, in the past year at least, gone back to that monthly tracking to see, am I doing one of these? Am I doing one of these per month, to sort of spread it out and make sure I'm not like flying headlong into the historical romance, for example. I mean, I do this from time to time and that's okay, but it's just good to be aware. Hi, Andy. Yeah. Cool. Okay, well, I will plan. I won't go through all the names, obviously, because for a year it would be deathly boring. But I will do some stats on acquisitions for 2024, although I will probably miss out December because I'll calculate it at the end of November. And yeah, see what I can draw from that. That sounds fun. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. That was a fabulous, fun summer book haul walk down memory lane anyway. So go forth, get those goals. If you said you wanted to buy a book right now, I don't know, maybe it's time. And if not, take care and happy reading of the books on your shelf. And until next time, everybody, bye.